Hello and welcome to this episode, where we will be deep diving into the history of ambient EDM music and how this developed during the 90s. Then, of course, we'll also recreate these sounds using the Korg Volcas and some effects from the NTS-1. Let's go! Ambient music is basically a type of music that focuses more on the atmosphere and mode and ambience rather than the melody or the rhythm of the track. And typically in ambient music, the artists try to create some kind of a feeling or mode when creating the atmospheric music. Here I have created some examples. You could, for example, create a mode of suspense, or it could be sadness, or why not happiness. And as you can hear in these examples, although I am using the same string patch, I create completely different modes in the music by creating different kind of ambiences or atmospheres. But what is then the origins of ambient music? Well, ambient music has more or less been around for as long as history is known. Already in ancient days, simple instruments were used during different celebrations and ceremonies to create this particular feeling that was appropriate for that moment. And during prehistory and modern history, different music has also been used in different spiritual and religious contexts to create some kind of nice atmosphere that is supposed to trigger some kind of feeling or mode in the audience. And during the 1960s, electronic instruments were being used to create different psychedelic sound effects as part of the hippie and the new age movement. But it was not until this guy gave it a name that it was called ambient music. This is Brian Eno, a British musician that started as a keyboard player in the band Roxy Music in the early 70s. But in 1973 he started his solo career, and according to Brian himself, he did not invent ambient music, it was already there, he simply just gave it a name. And this he did in 1978 when releasing the album Ambient 1, Music for Airports. And if this album was the start, I personally believe it was this guy who took it to the next level. This is Richard David James, also known as Aphex Twin or AFX. And if Brian Eno gave ambient a name, I definitely feel it was Richard that shaped the kind of ambient music we came to know during the 90s. And I think some really interesting work here is on this album that was called Selected Ambient Work 85 to 92. And here you can definitely hear the shape of the ambient music that we would hear so much during the 90s. And typically you heard these in the chill out section, and this was also where the genre would spread and gain in popularity. So if you weren't around back then, the chill out section during the 90s was basically the more relaxed part of a rave party. So in a rave party you would typically have two stages. In one main stage you play the fast music that could be like hardcore, acid house or techno. But then you had also another room, was called the chill out section, where you could basically chill out during your trips. And here you played chill out music that was typically ambient music. And that is why ambient music also sometimes is called chill out music. And with that said, now it is time for us to start creating our own ambient music. Let's go! So I will create here an ambient track that is a bit more Aphex Twin-like and not so much Brian Eno. So I'm more gonna try to do a track that could have been like from a chill-out lounge at a rave party in the 90s. First I need some rhythms to keep the tempo, and I have equipped now my Volca Sample with first here a breakbeat and then some samples. And I've just created some patterns here. So first just a pure rhythm. And then I can add a breakbeat. And I've also created a pattern where I've used a high cut filter to filter down the frequency of the breakbeat, and it sounds like this. And I think I'm going to use that now to keep the tempo when I record other parts. Then I will need some lush strings from the Volca FM. And I will record something here, but first I will change to 1/4 speed, making the pattern last longer. And then I will need to use here the Volca Sample just to keep the tempo when I record. Then I will also create a pattern here on the Volca Keys, and I will do that in unison mode, and I will create a melody that sounds like this. And I will also here need some tempo keeping from the Volca Sample. And of course I will need some acid, and I will get that from the Volca Nubass here. And I will also here need to use the Volca Sample to keep the tempo. And then I can just use the transpose function to add some transposes, and the slide function to alter the slides a bit to make it sound a bit more exciting. Let's see. Yes, that is nice. Let's keep that. But it's not ambient yet until we add the effects. And here, when creating ambient, your best friend is actually the reverb effects. So I will add the rise reverb here, and also I will activate the stereo delay. And now we can start adding that on the components. Now it's really shaping here. Should add it also on the acid. And also on the Volca Keys, of course. And on the Volca Keys we can also add a bit of the built-in delay. Yes, very nice. Now we are actually ready to jam. But before the jam, just a big thanks to everyone for watching the show, and also a super big awesome thanks to everyone that subscribes. If you're not subscribed yet, make sure you just click that subscribe button. Do it now. There you go. Great job. And now with that said, it's really time to jam now. Let's go.
Yeah.